Okay, we're on 444. 444. So, let me have a Gemara. I'm unhooking myself for 1 second over here. Gemara I want to show you in a manipulate. Okay, here we go. So the pasuk says, we're 3 lines from the top. V'zosa Terumah asher tikchu me'itam zav v'chesef v'nechoshes v'techeles v'argaman v'tolas shani v'sheish. Those are the materials that you're going to take from the Jewish people. I want to show you something that the Gemara says. So the Gemara in Avodah Zarah, right at the beginning, the Gemara says in the future, v'lasi lovo. So the Gemara says, where does it start? Here. It says like this. La'asid lavo in the future. First page on Avodah Zarah. Daf Beis Amud Aleph. In the future, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to bring a Sefer Torah and put it in his lap. Whatever that means. And he's going to say, whoever was involved in Torah, whoever was involved in Torah study should come and get your reward. Whoever learned Torah in the future, he's going to say, whoever learned Torah, come get your reward. So Gemara says, Miyad miskapsin uboy novdei kochavim birbuvya. All the goyim are going to come. Yeah, we were involved. Give us our reward for Torah. Shenemar, and it quotes a pasuk. Okay, and then HaKadosh Baruch Hu calls them in one at a time. So the first nation that comes in is going to be the Romans. Okay, the Romans are going to be the first ones in. And what happens? So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to them, B'maya saktem, what were you dealing with? What did you do? So they say to him, Amri Ufana, Ribono Shalom, Harbe Shvakim Takaninu. We made a lot of marketplaces. Harbe Merchatzos Asinu. We made a lot of bathhouses. Harbe Kesef V'Zav Yirbinu. We accumulated a lot of gold and silver. There's the Romans talking. V'Kulam Lo Asinu Ela B'Yishvil Yisrael. We did it all for the Jews. Kadeshi Yisasku Batorah. So that they should be involved, be able to study Torah. No, the Romans, huh? The Romans who ripped Rabbi Akiva to shreds for studying Torah. All of a sudden, they did everything for the Jews. It was all for the Jews, so the Jews could study Torah. Then HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to them, Shotim Shabab, you fools. Call Masha Asisam, whatever you did, L'tzorech Atzochem Asisam, you did it all for yourselves. Tikantem Shvakim, you made marketplaces. Lahoshiv Bahem Zonos, to put harlots there. Yeah, you made a bunch of red light districts. That's what you did. Liars. Merchatzos, bathhouses, you made bathhouses in order to delight yourselves, in order to pamper yourselves, to go into the bathhouses. Kesef is of gold and silver you accumulated, li shali. The gold and silver is mine, says Hashem. That's a very interesting Gemara. Whatever it means, obviously deeper levels of meaning. But that's what the Gemara says. The Romans, what'd you do? We did it all for the Jews. All of a sudden, everybody was good to the Jews. Everybody just loves the Jews. Everybody can't find anybody in the world who is on Israel's side. But all of a sudden, everybody, we did it all for Jews. Then the Persians are going to come in. They did everything for the Jews. All for the Jews. Okay. Yeah, one second. That's what they claim. They did it for the Jews. Okay. What's going on here? So the answer is this is it's a very interesting concept, and you have to get this clear. Here you got gold, silver, and copper. We think people tend to think, there's gold in the world, lots of gold in the world, and some of the gold was then taken and used for the mishkan and the Beis Hamikdash. That's how people think. It's backwards. What came first, the chicken or the gold? Right? It's backwards. Gold was created so that it could be used for the mishkan and the Beis Hamikdash. There just happens to be some left over that the rest of the world gets to use. That means that the entire view of how things work. Let me ask you a question. Why do you have to honor your parents? because you came from them, right? And how do you know you have to honor them? Torah says so. The Torah, right? Torah says you got to honor your parents, right? So most people think, well, you have parents, and therefore the Torah says you have to honor them. It's the opposite. The Torah has a command to honor your parents. Therefore, God created such a thing called parents.
Feels right to do it also.
That's for sure. That's for sure. But in the order of how it really works, is it that the Torah said you have parents, and therefore the Torah said to honor them? Or is it the Torah says to honor parents, and therefore you have parents? Well, what came first, the chicken or the parents? Right? Okay, right? Right? So you have to understand, Torah is reality. So what happened with the Romans over here? What happened with the Romans? How can you tell such a brazen lie? Everything we did for the Jews. Everything we did for Torah. Everything. What, you're talking to the Ribbon Shalom. So the Brisker Rav says, that Gemara is talking about in the future, when they're going to be exposed to unadulterated truth. Oh, there's unadulterated truth. At that point, they'll see that everything they did was for the Jewish people. That means that the world is here for the Jews. We say it shamelessly. And I told you, you were there at Kiddush when we said Asher Bachar Banu. You don't like it, leave before the gefilte fish, because that's what we're doing there. We're standing at the table shamelessly declaring our supremacy. The only difference between our supremacy and everybody else's supremacy is we never said that we are supreme after everybody else has to die. That's the difference. We ask you, yeah, we're supreme. Yes, we are elitists. But we're elitists. You guys go do whatever you want. Just leave us alone. Stop putting us in ovens and stop putting us in gas chambers, and we'll be fine with you. You just do your thing. Just leave us alone. That's all we want. We're not trying. That's the battle between Yaakov and the angel. Remember the famous battle, Yaakov and the man. The angel's trying to throw him down. What's Yaakov trying to do? He's not trying to throw down the angel of Esav. He's just trying to stay upright. That's all he's trying to do, is he stay upright. That's what they consider a fair fight. We're trying to throw you down, and your goal is not to be thrown down. That's the whole thing. My brother and I used to have fair fights. My younger brother, we'd have, okay, let's go have a fair fight. Now, a fair fight, don't ask me how I convinced him to do this. He was younger than me. A fair fight meant he had to get on his stomach on the ground. I sat on him with my shoulders, with my knees pinning his shoulders on his back, and I started hitting him. I started pounding him. That was starting position and his goal was to throw me off. He had to throw me off. That was a fair fight, right? Kid wasn't too bright, right? Then at a certain point, he smarted up. He got bigger also. And then he decided that that's not how we're going to do it anymore. At that point, I retired. At that point, I decided, let's play chess. It's a lot safer for me. So that's what the Torah is saying. There's a whole. The perspective is, why is there gold? Oh well, there happens to be gold in South America and in what do you call it in what do you call it in Africa? Oh wow, and we actually have some excess gold left for the mishkan. No, that's a wrong hashkafa. The view is the gold was created for the Jewish people to use for a mishkan and a beis hamikdash, and there happens to be more gold left over in the world because God created a world in a natural way, but it's all for the Jews. When they say that the Jews, it's like when they say the Jews control all the money in the world. Well, you're not wrong. It was created for us after all, right? The whole money, it's there for the Jews, right? Exactly what the Romans said, right? Exactly what the Romans said, but that's in the future. When they see unadulterated truth, then they have nowhere to hide. Okay, now let's take a look some more here. Take a look at, yesterday we were talking about the gemstones. And then take a look at what do you call it, the Pasuk tests. Bottom of 444. Is all that I show you, the Mishkan, the model of the Mishkan, and and all the utensils, v'chein tasu, and so you shall do. Now, the question here the commentaries ask is, why does the Torah repeat this? Earlier it says, Ve'asu li mikdash shachanti b'socham, on the bottom line, they shall make a mikdash. And then Hashem says, Kechol asher ani maro so tavis v'chein tasu. You just said ve'asu li mikdash. You just said they shall make it for me. Why does it repeat at the end, and so you shall do? V'chein tasu. You understand? There's a repetition here. It said, they shall do it. Is all that I've shown you, they shall do. Why does it repeat it? Why is it repeated at the end? It sounds repetitious. For needs repetition. So the Ramban says, well, it's just to reinforce the command. This is serious business over here. So let's make sure that we're going to get this done and we're going to do it. Get the mishkan done. But one of the Forship says like this. If you have an architect, and if any of you going to be architects, any of you got any architectural skills? So architects, you got a little line. You got a what do you call it? The diagram, lines and dots and marks and everything else. What happens if you leave out one dot? Well, there goes the staircase. Yeah, leave out one line. Well, there was a building. There was supposed to be a building over there, right? That means that on an architectural plan, every little mark and every little dot it represents something massively bigger, right? Everything is it's giant. You know that in I think it was in Spain, they designed a building. I think Rabbi Salinger told me this. I think in Spain they had a building, the tallest building. They built a building about 47 floors, and they realized after they got to the 47th floor that the elevator shaft. They built an elevator shaft, but the elevator shaft finished on about the 18th floor, and there were no more space for elevator shafts to get up to the floor. They built the building, and the Schlemazzles didn't leave elevator shaft for the last 30 floors, something like that. So they had to call in an American company or something to try to figure out what are we going to do with this over here. 47 floors, and there's no elevator. These things happen. So what happened? Apparently, somebody erased the dot on the architectural plans, which is supposed to be the elevator shaft, right? One little line or one little dot, there goes your elevator shaft, and then goes millions, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of building. So what do you call it? So you're building a mishkan, and you got very intricate little utensils and what's it called when you stitch things together? The fancy weaving, but it's a fancy when it's really fancy making pictures with it with weaving with
Crochet.
No. But what's the whole thing called? Tapestry. You got tapestry. Thank you. You got fancy articulate tapestries that are made with what do you call it? Chaim, you're so impressed because somebody knew for a word with 3 syllables in it. Wow, they would look out. There we go. So the what do you call it? It's how to make their own kodesh. V'chein ta'asu. Make sure you do it down to the nth detail, because what's happening in a mishkan down here. Remember, there's a Beis Hamikdash down here, and there's a Beis Hamikdash up there. And what you're doing in the physical world has an effect in the spiritual realm. Can you imagine guys who are in the International Space Station, and some guy in NASA down in Houston decides to fumble. He's just fumbling with the computer one day, and he's playing around like this. The next thing you know, some guy in the space station, his bed hits the ceiling. Because this guy down here, how could this affect something up there? I just hit 3 little buttons down here. Yeah, and this guy, his bed that was bolted down, you just released the bolt. And another guy is now floating in outer space, for eternity, because you open the hatch or something by hitting buttons down there. We don't understand. If we see in the physical world, it works. If it works in the physical world, it works in the spiritual world. And what we do down here has a major effect. Well, everything we do down here has an effect in the spiritual realm. The mishkan has to be v'chein tasu. Make sure you do it down to the nth detail. Now listen to this very carefully. Rabbi Moshe Feinstein says, when does the Torah give this instruction of v'chein tasu? That's only by the mishkan. By the mishkan, bricks, mortar, physical materials, very clear instruction how to do it. Very clear. You, as an individual human being, me, you, every one of us, there is no specific set of instructions. We know what the Torah says we have to do. We have to put on tefillin, and we have to shake a lulav, and we have to have a mezuzah, and we can't eat pork. That we know. But the rest of our individual developments, there's no v'chein ta'asu over there, because each one of us is different. Each one of us has a different inclination, a different personality, different abilities, capabilities, talents, interests, Each one of us develops as a Jew differently. There, the Torah can't limit us to one. It's not one size fits all. It's not one size fits all for the human beings. When you're building a mishkan, then it's v'chein ta'asu. Then the Torah goes to the Aron Kodesh. 446, second line. Ve'asu Aron atzei shitim. You make an Aron out of shitim wood. Amasayim v'chetzi orko, 2.5 amas long. Ve'ama v'chetzi rachbo, an amma and a half wide. Ve'ama v'chetzi kamaso, and an amma and a half height. Now, before anything, let's get the Aron Kodesh clear. I don't know, you guys probably saw Raiders. So, you got your, I don't know if you did see Raiders of the Lost Ark. You never saw Raiders of the Lost Ark? Indiana Jones. Because the original one was Raiders of the Lost Ark. That was just as I was leaving in America. I never got to see that one. I think the last movie I saw was Airplane. Then I came to Israel and gave it all up. What a mistake! Right. So the one that I wanted to see because my brother saw it. My brother saw Raiders. He said it was great. Inside that sounded like a good movie. That was the first of that genre. Airplane was the first of the genre where there was no plot whatsoever, just one joke after another. And in Raiders was the first of the genre where just one piece of action after another. Without any really deep plot over there. So anything you've seen there now completely deletes from your minds. Yet what did the Aron Kodesh look like? The Aron Kodesh is made out of wood. What do you think of when you think of the Aron Kodesh, honestly? Gold. See, this is also when you think of beautiful Yerushalayim on all the picture postcards, what do you see?
Jerusalem story.
You don't see Jerusalem.
What?
The Bukharim corridor, yeah. Well, I see usually the Golden Dome is usually the dominating feature. Remember, guys, we're not on that side. That's not supposed to make us happy. Jerusalem, wow, yeah. Oh, no, that's kind of on the site of the base of Migdash, actually. And it's on all the, wow, look at that Golden Dome. So we think of the Aron Kodesh, you think of the gold. The gold is essentially a coating. The Torah describes the gold as a coating. Now, listen carefully. The Aron Kodesh is 3 boxes. The middle box is the Aron Kodesh, which is made out of wood. There's an inner box. You ever see kids' blocks? One block fits into another block. That's what the Aron Kodesh was three boxes. The inner box, the middle box is the Aron Kodesh, made out of acacia wood, atzei shitim. There's a bigger box that it goes into, which the Torah describes it as coated with gold, but it's not literally a coating. We think a coating is painted on. This is covered with gold. There's gold. It's a box inside a second box, and then there's a third box that goes in there. So it's covered, the wood is covered on all sides by gold with one box inside another box, and then there's a golden top that goes on it. So you can't see any of the wood. But the Aron Kodesh essentially is what? It's the wood, not the gold. But people, when you think of it, because you see all the pictures, you see the pictures showed in gold. Okay, that has to be clear, number one. Number two, what does it tell you that the Aron Kodesh is made out of wood? What does that tell you? What is the difference between wood and gold?
For God, gold doesn't make any price. It doesn't make any value.
Doesn't make, okay, that's true, that God's not impressed. We're trying to impress God, isn't impressed with gold, even though we're told to use gold. But what else? What's the difference between wood and gold?
Well, wood's more living, so to speak.
Yes, wood grows.
Yeah.
That means the Aron Kodesh, now each one of these utensils is going to represent one aspect of Judaism. The Aron Kodesh obviously represents Torah, because that's where the Luchos were put, that's where the Sefer Torah was put. The Aron Kodesh is Torah. We are meant to grow with Torah. Torah is learned. We learn Torah, and Torah helps us to grow, not physically. I went to the doctor recently. And so the secretary says to me, she says to me, well, how tall are you? She's writing down my phone, how tall are you? What's your height? So I said, oh, I'm very tall, very, very tall. How tall do you think I am? What's your height? I said, oh, I'm really, really tall. She didn't chop. And she goes, okay, about how much? So she put me down for a 1.80 meters, right? So at least I grew. Yeah, she got me down for 1.80 meters. What, she think I was 6'4"? So the what do you call the Aron? We're meant to grow. The wood represents growth. When we grow, where do we grow and how do we grow? Internally and externally. That means that inside of us has to be gold, and our external behavior has to be gold. Internal in our home, we have to be gold, which is probably the hardest thing of all. Outside with other people, we have to be gold. Gentlemen, which is easier?
Outside.
Oh, 100%. 100%. That's why you always have people. That's why you have in the world at large why the boss runs off with his secretary. Right? The secretary is willing to run away from her husband and marry the boss because the boss is really charming till she marries him. Right? Because everybody's on their best behavior outside the home. Outside the home, everybody's just you put your best foot forward. When you come home, then the real tiger comes out. So we have to be gold on the inside, that being the gold on the outside. Now there's a concept in the Gemara that says you have to be toho kiboro. Toho kiboro means your internal self and your external self should be the same. Meaning, don't be two-faced. If you ever look at signatures, a signature tells you a lot about a person. Do you ever see some people have signatures which are either they're hard to read, or they're either ineligible, or they're with a big flourish, a signature. And sometimes you have a signature that looks exactly like the handwriting. The signature isn't much different than the handwriting. There's certain people that, it's exactly the same. That tells you that the person, he's not putting on a show. What you see is what you get. A signature in handwriting analysis represents how you want to be seen by the public. That's your public persona. So if you can write a letter and in the end it's a big flashy hand, you want to kind of put on a look a certain way. That's in handwriting analysis. That's that's how they explain it. Sometimes you find that the signature isn't much different than the writing. That means that this person, basically what you see is what you get. Sometimes you see ineligible handwriting signatures, which is usually politicians, which means that there's a lot that's being hidden there. Right? There's a lot that's being hidden. Right? Sometimes it's weavy, which means that it's downright sneaky. There's a lot. It's an interesting study. At the end of the day, a Torah Jew should be toho kiboro. Your inside not only should be gold, but your inside and your outside should be the same. What you see is what you get. Obviously, we don't always have to say exactly what we're thinking. That's something else. That's called being tactful. But there's a difference between being tactful and being deceitful. Take a look at Rashi. Rashi says, it's the sixth line. Rashi says, Ve'asu Aron, sixth line, right column on 446. Kimin Aronos, everybody see that? If you find it, please show the person next to you. Kimin Aronos she'osim below raglayim. It's like a box that's made without feet. Asuyim kimon argaz shekorin iskrin yoshev al shulav. It sits on its bottom. There were no legs. There are no legs to the Aron Kodesh. Why not? Why are there no legs? It's just a box, and the box goes down. There's where does he have? Do they have a picture here? Oh, there's the picture right over there. See, the picture only shows you over here. The picture shows you the outside box with the cover, with the kruvim coming out of the cover, which we'll talk about in Hashem. But there's two more boxes over there. There's an internal box and an even more internal box. Now, why are there? Rashi points out over here that there are no feet. There are no feet on the Aron. What?
More stable.
More stable. Okay, we're not too worried about it falling, right?
To the ground.
What's that?
Touching the ground.
Touching the ground. Okay, and therefore what?
Well, the movement requires effort because of the poles on the side.
We'll see the pole. We haven't gotten to the poles yet. Legs creates a different impression. That means if my spiritual level based on Torah is here, and I stand on stilts, a guy who stands on stilts, so he looks a lot taller than he is. Right? You take the Aron Kodesh as the Jew. This is who I am. And if I'm standing on legs, this makes me look a little bigger than who I really am, higher at a higher spiritual level. Right? Person has to know, don't put on a show. It goes the same theme. The inside and the outside is don't put on a show. Is this really where you're holding? Is this who you really are? Are you ready for this level of Judaism? Don't put on a show for anybody. That's why one of my pet peeves is people who put on a performance during davening. Sometimes people are davening and there's a lot of this and a lot of this and a lot of this and a lot of, daven, man, don't put on it, don't perform. If we want you to perform, we'd pay you. Don't put on a show for anybody. If you do daven like that, you know what the acid test is? When you're davening home alone, do you do the same thing? Are you also doing like this and like this when you're davening home alone? Right? Then you can do it in shul. If that's what you do when you daven, then do it alone in shul. Then you can do it in shul. But if you don't, so why are you doing it in shul? Who are you trying to impress? Who do you think? You think people don't see through you? Just be real. Just be honest. Be truthful. The Torah is a Torah's emes. The Torah is emes. Why are there, now watch this. Notice anything unique about the dimensions of the Aron Kodesh? 2.5 by 1.5 by 1.5?
Squared.
What's that?
It's not squared.
What do you mean?
Rectangular.
It's rectangular. What else? What else? You're right.
Halves.
What?
They all halves.
They're all fractions.
Okay.
They're all fractional dimensions. There are no other fractional dimensions on any of the other utensils except one. If you look at the next page, 448. V'asisa shulchan atzei shitim, 7 lines from the bottom. V'asisa shulchan atzei shitim hamasayim orko v'ama rochbo v'ama v'chetzi komaso. The shulchan, which is where the showbreads went on, is 2 amas long, 1 amma wide, and an amma and a half high. That's the only other fractional dimension that you find in all the utensils in the Mishkan. The Aron Kodesh has 3 fractional dimensions. The Shulchan only has 1, which is the height dimension. And the others have none. What's going on? So this, many commentaries point out, what does a fraction tell you? When you think of a fraction, besides being annoyed, what does a fraction tell you? It's not complete. It's not full. When it comes to Torah study, we have to always think to ourselves, there's depth in Torah, there's breadth of Torah, there's information of Torah. No matter what Torah we study, we always have to feel that we are incomplete. There's more Torah to learn. And who realizes it the most? The more Torah you learn, the more you realize how much there is to learn. Who realizes how big the ocean is? The people who dive down into the ocean. Right? When we're looking on the surface, I remember I was once driving from Los Angeles to San Diego. And as you drive from Los Angeles to San Diego, you have this view, you're driving parallel to the Pacific Ocean. And I'm just looking out at this thing. It's a beautiful view for those who like looking at oceans. I'm not one of them, by the way. 5 minutes, a couple of minutes of looking at ocean is good enough for me. I'd rather watch TV. But I didn't have a TV in the car. So as we're driving, I'm glancing over at this ocean, and I'm thinking to myself, boy, am I small. Boy, am I insignificant. Boy, am I little. Because you're looking out, it was kind of nice. It's towards sunset, and you're watching. I'm looking at this vast ocean over, like, wow, that thing is big. Well, that's nothing compared to people who dive down into the ocean. Because as you dive down into the ocean, all of a sudden you see worlds down there. And you see worlds of mountains and valleys and all sorts of good zachen that you find down in the ocean. For those who like diving down where there are sharks, right? You find all sorts of nice things down there. So, fish, besides the fish, it's massive. Fish, creatures, plants, whatever you have down there. A person, the more Torah you learn, when you look at it, you say, there are 20 books on the shelf over there, and then there's a big blue book over here. I basically know all about it. Then you start learning, and you realize you've been in Yeshiva for 4 weeks, and you've basically done a page and a half in Gemara. And you think, whoa, there's an awful lot of Torah here, right? And no matter how much Torah you learn, whether you learn by depth, breadth of Torah, what's called bikias, vast knowledge, accumulative knowledge, the more you learn, the more you realize how big Torah is. That's the half dimensions of the Aron Kodesh, is to remind us how much Torah there is. We're never complete when it comes to Torah, and we're never complete in our development as a human being, which is that wooden Aron Kodesh. There's always more. You worked on your anger, you got your anger under control, you could do even better. You're an unselfish person, you could do even better. You're humble, you could be even more humble. You're generous, you could be even more generous. We're never finished. And not only that, our belief in God faith is a midah also. You have faith in God, you can increase your faith in God. You can increase your bitachon. You daven, you can increase your tefillah. Everything, it could all. We're never complete. The job is complete when they take a person out horizontal. That's when the job is over. That's when you hit the finish line. When they take you out horizontal, game over. Up until that point, the person could grow. There's no limit to where a person could get to. Once I'll get to you one second though. Where is there another broken dimension? Go to the next page for a second. You have the Shulchan. Now, what does the Shulchan represent? The Shulchan is the showbreads. The 12 breads go on. And by the way, in that picture of the Shulchan is all the way down. If you notice in the picture, you'll see there's a little squiggly line over there where it says crown. Mm-hmm. That's the height of the Shulchan. Everything you see above it, this part over here, this over here is not part of the Shulchan. This is where they put alongside, I think they call these the staves. Staves, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it, not slaves, staves, right? I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but this is where they put the breads. That's not part of the Shulchan, that's over the Shulchan. The Shulchan ends right here. That's the Shulchan. It's only an arm and a half high. An arm and a half is about 3 feet high, if that much. Then you have over here is shelves. These are the shelvings to put the breads on, the 12 showbreads that went on the Shulchan. What does this, what does the Aron Kodesh represent?
Jewish people.
Specifically, Torah. What does the Shulchan represent? The kingdom, the melech, prosperity. The king is in charge of prosperity for the Jewish people. The breads, that represents the bracha. Why are there 12 breads? 12 breads on the Shulchan. Bracha comes down from Shemayim, goes to the Shulchan, and it spreads to the 12 tribes. So you have the 12 breads, that represents prosperity. What's our attitude? Our attitude towards Torah is we should always see ourselves as incomplete, right? What about our attitude when it comes to material pursuits? Bread, material goods. What should our attitude be? Length and width are completed numbers. Meaning, what should my attitude be? I have enough. Whatever God has given me is sufficient. What about the height dimension? That represents my use of material goods in serving God. There, we should always see ourselves as fractional. That means when I get to giving tzedakah, I'm never done giving tzedakah. When it comes to maybe paying money, a little bit more money for my tefillin, I'm never done with money. Devoting our material goods upwards, that we're never done. Length, width, my own home, my own parnasa, my own, whatever God gives me, I should be sameach b'chako, be happy with what you have, and see ourselves as complete. That's the difference between the two. Now let's go back to your own God. Somebody had a question. Dylan, you had a question?
Yeah, so you said there's 3 boxes?
Yes.
So the Ark of the or the Ten Commandments, the tablets, the broken tablets, what's in the 3rd box?
They go into the 3 boxes is one box within another box within another box. There's only there's only one area that's a container. There's only one area for storage. They go into that area for storage. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. There's no room between the boxes to put anything. It's one box inside another box inside another box. Then they go. So they're sitting on the gold. They're sitting on gold because the gold is the inner box.
Gotcha.
The innermost box. Okay. Now watch this. If you'll notice again in Pasuk Yud, do you see anything strange? Look at the wording. It says Ve'asu Aron Atzei Shitim. Okay, back on 446. Sorry. 446, second line from the top. This is a little subtle, but we'll see how big it gets. 446, second line from the top says Ve'asu Aron Atzei Shitim. They shall make an Aron of Shitim wood. Look on the next page. Ve'asisa Shulchan. You shall make the Shulchan. Look on the next page. 450, fourth line from the top. Ve'asisa menorah zav tar, you shall make. When it comes to the Aron Kodesh, there's a plural. They shall make. When it comes to all the other utensils, it's in the singular. You shall make. Hear the difference. Ve'asu. Again, you see what? Are you with me?
Yeah.
446, Ve'asu Aron, they shall make. The rest of them is Ve'asisa, you shall make. Why is it changed from plural to singular? That means there's something about, again, the Aron Kodesh, plural. Why is it plural?
And they also sounds like it's excluding yourself.
Okay, good. Why? But why is it plural? Ve'asu, and they shall make.
Because since the ark represents Torah, Torah is not something that we can endeavor on our own versus the rest of the.
Good. You need help. There's actually the Gemara says a person should learn alone. You should have a study partner. I mean, if you don't have a study partner, you should learn. You should learn on your own. Okay. What do you say?
With Torah, we're all obligated to study Torah.
Correct. That means we're all involved in Torah study. Not everybody's going to be a king, and not everybody's going to be a Kohen, which is the menorah, and the Shulchan is for kings. But everybody's got the ability and obligation to study Torah. Everybody's got it. Also, you're all involved, number one. Number two, do you ever remember hearing about the idea of a partnership in Torah? There's a partnership. What's the partnership? Yisachar and Zvulun, that a person could learn Torah and somebody else supports him, right? Sometimes not everybody can learn in Kolol. Some people are businessmen. Ve'asu Aron, there are going to be partnerships in Torah. The partnerships in Torah represent the idea that there are going to be some people who will learn and some people will support the learners, hopefully.
Like a man and a wife?
A man and a wife is certainly like that. A man and a wife, especially a woman. We'll see in a second because we're going to get to the wife in a second. So there's a, what do you call it? Take a look at where I've lost myself over here. Oh, here we go. Okay, now let's go on to the next pasuk. Vitzipisa oso zahav tahor. You should cover it with, go fourth line on 446. Back to 446. Vitzipisa oso zahav tahor. You should cover over the Aron with gold. Mibais umichutz tetzapenu. You should coat it inwards and outwards. And that's referring to the boxes. The Torah talks about as coating, but it's not literally coating as we understand it. V'asisa olav zer zahav saviv. You should make a golden crown around it. Now, if you look at the picture, that little squiggly thing at the top looks like a crown. With any imagination, right? It looks like a crown. Zer zahav. That means the crowning achievement is obviously to study Torah and accumulate Torah. That's a crowning achievement. That's a zer. That's what zer means as a crowning achievement. But the word zer, which is a crown, is closely related to the Hebrew word zar. What's a zar? It's the same letters. What's a zar? What's a zar? A stranger. A stranger. The Torah says a Kohen is allowed to enter the base of the V'zahazar hakorev yumas. The stranger who approaches, a non-Kohen who approaches, is put to death. You're not allowed to. Yisrael, when we spoke about this, none of you are Kohanim yet. So a Kohen has certain privileges going into the Beis Hamikdash, going into the Mishkan, where the zar, the stranger, cannot go in. And not only that, a stranger who is somebody who's stranger is a ish zar. He's a strange person. Not strange means strange. He's a stranger to the community. What does it mean, a golden crown? What's a golden stranger? There used to be the Lone Ranger. You ever heard of Lone Ranger? Right? This is the Golden Stranger, right? It's the sequel to the Lone Ranger, the Golden Stranger. Right? What's a Golden Stranger? What does it mean? What's a Golden Stranger? Mashiach, the Golden Stranger. Right? What's a golden stranger? What's strange? What's gold about being a stranger?
Maybe that represent the idea that no stranger is like no Jewish is like stranger to the Torah. Like what?
Ew! I thought you started out good. You started out in the right direction. Yes, okay.
Maybe it's the study of Torah in exile. Potentially, it's.
Okay, we're going to get to that. Good. We're going to get to that later.
The community.
Okay.
Even if you don't know a Jew, he's still golden. Like you may not know him, but he's still golden.
Okay, it's straight. Okay, these are all good. That could be.
He's like a stranger,
What?
so he can be built up into what he's supposed to be, to gold.
Okay, that's what the Torah will do to him. Good, that the Torah will do to him. So what do you say, Chaim?
Even if he is a stranger too.
No, you're going in the wrong direction. We go in the opposite direction now. Okay, so I'll tell you. It could be you're right, by the way. What the commentaries say is, we're talking about a golden crown, a crowning achievement. You know what the crowning achievement for us is through Torah? That we should be strangers to the society around us. That's what the crowning achievement for a Jew is that through Torah, the Torah should teach us values and to be separate from the nations. We're not interested in their vulgarity. We're not interested in their values or lack thereof. We're not interested in anything having to do anything with the other nations. The Torah is the crowning attachment, and that's going to be the result of Torah. The Torah will remove us from that society. Now, then the Torah says, and one of you, Alan, you mentioned about the women. V'yatzakta lo arba taba'os zahav. There are going to be 4 golden rings. V'nasata al arba pamosav. You're going to put it on the 4 corners. U'shtei taba'os al tzalo echas u'shtei taba'os al tzalo shedis. So you're going to have four rings. You're going to have 4 rings on the corners of the Aron Kodesh. You know what the commentaries say rings represent? Now, rings represent a lot of different things. One of the things that I think is the Kli Yakar says, the rings represent the never-ending reward that a person gets. What's a ring? A ring is something that just goes around in circles, right? A ring goes around, it repeats on itself. Rings represent, what we think about the reward of the world to come, we have to understand eternity is a long time. Eternity is a long time. Right? It's a lot longer than when you say, oh, I've been stuck in this traffic jam for eternity. That's not eternity. It's a long time, depending on where you live. But in real eternity, never ends. Real eternity never ends. That's what one thing, we'll see by the Shulchan, it represents something else according to the commentators. But the Ksir here attached to Torah represents the never-ending ring of reward that a person gets for every single word of Torah that you've learned. We've just learned Torah now for 40 minutes. Every single word that we've learned now gets us reward in the world to come, which is never, each word gets us reward which is never ending. You learned Gemara today, you learned Halacha today. Every word of Torah that you've learned today, you're going to be getting never-ending reward for that. That's the nature of Torah, and it's the biggest reward. The biggest reward is for Torah, number 1. Number 2, let's go back to support. We were talking about support. What do the rings represent on the Torah? And then what are you going to put in the rings? Let's read one more word, one more pasuk. Ve'vesa es habadim, you're going to make ve'asu badei atzei shitim, you're going to make badim, poles out of shitim wood, v'tzipisos hamzav, you cover them with gold. Pasuk Yud Gimel. Ve'vesa es habadim betabos al tzalos ha'aron, l'seisas ha'aron b'hem, you're going to put these poles through the holes. Betabos Aron you abadim lo yasuri menu. The poles are never allowed to be detached. It's actually put as one of the 613 mitzvahs in the Torah. You're not allowed to pull the poles out of the Aron Kodesh. It's a strange mitzvah. It's one of the 365 prohibitions. That means if one day you're walking past the Beis Hamikdash and you get the sudden urge to run in there and rip a pole out of the Aron Kodesh, overcome that urge, gentlemen. Somebody hold me back. Right? Okay, 1 second. Let me finish. What does that mean? What does that mean? So the poles are obviously the support system. The support, if you're carrying the Aron Kodesh, you carry it with the poles. It's a support system for Torah. So the supporters of Torah must never be detached from Torah. They go in the rings, and they have to be completely attached. Now, Rav Hirsch says the idea of the poles not being detached. Somebody mentioned this. One of you mentioned about, I think Yaakov, you might have mentioned in Chutz La'aretz. That means that poles represent. Why would you? In the army sometimes they told the soldiers they have to sleep with their boots on and tied. There are different levels of sleeping in the army. Boots on, boots off, boots on untied, boots on tied. There are different levels. So if they have to sleep with their boots on and tied, what does that tell you? You got to get ready to get up and go at the drop of a hat. If the poles are in the Aron Kodesh and they're never to be removed, that means, one day we may have to grab it and run. That means that the Torah is telling you, obviously you'll grab and run, that Torah applies in Chutz La'aretz as well. Torah is not limited only to Eretz Yisrael. Torah applies in Chutz La'aretz as well. That a person may one day have to take that Aron Kodesh, may have to go to Chutz La'aretz, meaning that when we go to outside Eretz Yisrael, Torah is not limited to Eretz Yisrael. Now, the rings represent, when you think of a ring, what do you always think? What's the first thing you think when you think of a ring? Marriage, of course. Marriage, of course. Who are the supporters of Torah? Say Ellen mentioned, husband and wife. A wife has to support her husband. Not financially necessarily. Not financially. She has to be encouraging him. I mean, it's very difficult to study Torah. She has to help him, motivate him, get him out to a Daf Yomi shir, help her husband to realize the importance of Torah, express her appreciation for the Torah, bake him a pie when he comes back from learning. Not just for her friend's birthday. Bake him a pie, show your husband, and tell your husband she's a support system for Torah. That's the ring, because that's the one you're married to. One more point. The rings and the poles never leave. That means if you're a person who's able to support Torah, you will share in the reward eternally with that Talmid Chacham. You're going to be connected to that Talmid Chacham that you supported. The two of you are going to be connected like that through eternity as far as the reward of Torah. And not only that, if you make it possible for a person to learn Torah, a Yisachar Zvulun relationship, this Svarim say the Chafetz Chaim brings down, in the world to come, his Torah that he knew and understood in this world, you'll be given that in the world to come because you made his Torah possible. The only difference is, so what's the difference? The difference is he has more pleasure in this world because he gets to learn Torah. Most people think the opposite. And the truth of the matter is, it depends on your personality. Not everybody's capable of sitting and learning for hours and hours and hours a day. And not everybody's capable of going out into the business world or running a business and that, having to worry about money, that sort of thing. Each person has to find and get guidance in his area. But ultimately, the Aron Kodesh represents that Torah and the value of Torah. Tomorrow we'll talk about the Kruvim, fascinating little creatures there on top of the Aron Kodesh. All right.